if it ended tomorrow, I would feel great about everything that we've done till today. I'm very much focused on the individual as far as animals go. So we don't have to save them all. But every one we save is, it means the world to that animal and the family that adopts them. We get messages from families all the time that say that we've changed their lives because this animal that was so neglected and ignored is now so cherished and beloved and a part of their family. So a lot of the rewards come daily, with just getting to know the individual animals. Personally, for me, I love it because we're not a municipal shelter, so we don't have the same constraints that a municipal shelter will have in terms of time and space. So we can give animals longer time and special attention to help them recover. And for me, when you see an animal that would almost certainly and justifiably be destroyed in other settings because they simply don't have those space or resources, we do. And when that animal turns around and starts to trust, that is the greatest feeling I can describe. I mean, that's amazing.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people and support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Tim Woodward is the Executive Director of Animal Rescue Corps, ARC, an organization he helped launch in 2010 to address large-scale crises of animal suffering that often fall beyond the reach of local agencies. After decades in operations and leadership roles in the private sector, Tim shifted his career toward animal protection, driven by the urgent need for coordinated, compassionate rescue solutions. Now leading ARC since 2018, he oversees its national operations, strategy, and growth, guiding a team that steps in whenever animals are found in distress. His leadership style blends logistical precision with deep empathy, ensuring effective techniques built on trust, collaboration, and integrity. Tim's work exemplifies the power of organizational compassion, building systems to save lives, foster recovery, and spark systematic change. Respected for his calm, grounded presence, whether coordinating rescues on the ground or negotiating partnerships, he's been recognized nationally, including as one of America's top 10 animal defenders by the Animal League Defense Fund. Living in Virginia with his husband and their rescued animals, Tim coordinates to model a life rooted in empathy and purpose, championing plant-based living as a part of a broader vision for a kinder world. Tim, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so
for
much.
being here today.
My pleasure. And that was quite an introduction. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. What was that moment that led you to leave that nonprofit world and help start Animal Rescue Corps?
Well, I had been in the for-profit world for quite a while and had done several startups. We were living in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area at the time. And the last one we had worked on was a commercial mortgage startup. And it felt very soulless to me when the mortgage industry sort of collapsed. It gave me an opportunity to step away and sort of relook at my priorities. And I had, some accrued time that I could take, and I said I wanted to go volunteer and help animals. And so I went locally there in the Bay Area, and I started helping at In Defense of Animals, a smaller nonprofit that's very focused on animal rights. And that's where I learned a lot. I didn't know anything about the plight of wild horses in the West or the horrible dolphin slaughters, or just it was kind of all new to me, and so I started absorbing a lot of it, and understanding, kind of the plight that animals face in our current society. That's also the time when I started eating plant-based. I stopped eating animals altogether. This is about 17 years ago now. Best decision I ever made. It's the people always go, I don't know how you can do it. It's the easiest thing to do. I mean, it quite literally is. You sacrifice nothing,
That's right.
a tiny bit of convenience, and what you get for that is an enormous amount of connection, and you can really feel good about yourself by just not eating animals. But anyway, so I volunteered and then worked at In Defense of Animals for a while. And then while there is when I really started learning about the underserved communities in our country that have no resources for animals at all. Not an animal control officer, not a shelter. I mean, literally nothing in large counties in the South, and not just in the South, but especially in the South. And so we started looking at creating this resource that would work hand in hand with law enforcement, because a lot of times, law enforcement gets a lot of criticism for not addressing situations. But if they literally do not have the resource, what are they supposed to do? And so you're talking about counties where there aren't enough resources for humans, and animals are, further down on the list. So what we did, we created this organization, and with the help of amazing volunteers and compassionate donors, we are that resource. So we go to the community and we say, or they come to us, either way, and we say, you have this problem of cruelty in your community, this large scale issue. And large scale can be 10 dogs or it can be 200. But for a community that has no resource, 10 dogs is a large problem.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we go to them and we tell them that we are that resource for them, and we're not going to charge their community anything. And so we humanely extract the animals, we provide all the vetting, we document all the evidence and support the cruelty case. And then as soon as we have legal custody, we then work with our network of several hundred placement partners across the country to find the right partner who will take that animal and match them with their loving home.
That is incredible. How would you say ARC has evolved since the early days, and what have you been most proud of in that growth?
Oh, well, in the early days, we didn't have a dedicated facility. So it was come into a town and get a building at the fairgrounds or a retail space that was not currently rented. We've sheltered in everything from old Kmart's to car lots to barns on a fairgrounds. And so in those days, we would come in and we would set up the entire shelter, do the rescue, and then shelter at an emergency location, however long it took to get custody, and then transport the animals out, and then clean and pack up everything and send it back into storage. And that had a lot of unique challenges to it, and was always a great deal of work recreating an emergency shelter every time. So let's see, it's probably about 8 years ago now, we got a dedicated facility here in Tennessee. And we work nationally, we work all over, but Tennessee kind of organically became a center of operations. And I can explain why. But so we got our dedicated facility here in Tennessee, and that really started to change the way we operate, because up until then, it had been one case at a time with a break in between. And, so we were doing maybe 6 cases, 7 cases a year. Once we had a dedicated facility and we didn't have to spend so much time time and energy putting things into storage and getting them out of storage, we started to run more continuously. So once you have the space and you have the volunteers there and all the equipment, it just becomes very easy to operate continuously. And so we began to do cases all the time and have cases overlapping, which wasn't the case in the beginning. And so, like right now, we have one, two, animals from over five different cases in the building, and approximately 200 dogs and over a dozen exotic birds. And so it really, having the facility really changed the way we operate and the things that we're able to commit to. And also, it enables us to provide more enrichment and security for the animals and also create a base of volunteers that are consistent. So now we have really great volunteers who are leaders and who have been with us for years. And so that's really, I think, one the major evolution was getting a dedicated facility and beginning to operate full time, multiple cases at a time.
So how many facilities do you operate at this time?
We have a small facility in Virginia that we use for layovers and storage, but our main rescue center where we do all of the cases that you see mostly is here in Tennessee. And then occasionally we will still set up an emergency shelter out in the field if needed. If we go to, say, California or Arizona or somewhere like that, we can still emergency shelter. But when the case allows, we bring animals back here to the one in Tennessee. And Tennessee is a lot of our work is in the deep South, so Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama. And so Tennessee is very central to go there, secure the animals, extract them from the scene, and bring them back to Tennessee, and then vet and house them here until we can distribute them. And then, of course, our placement partners are largely in the northern Midwest and Northeast. So if we bring the animals to Tennessee, they're kind of halfway there already. So then we run when we're able, we run the transports to Michigan, New Jersey, Illinois, Colorado, etc. And so it just works out to be a nice central location for us.
So do you rely like on a hotline? How do you source I mean, I imagine there's need everywhere. How do
There
you
is need
choose
everywhere.
where you're going to
There
go?
is need. Initially, we would get a tip and we would build a case. So
Okay.
we would get a tip, we would do an undercover investigation, we would get a state licensed vet from wherever we are to examine the evidence and write a report declaring that this is cruelty in their eyes. A vet is really the only person that can determine truly whether it's cruelty or not. And so we always work with state licensed vets, and ideally we work with forensic vets who have been specifically trained to document and work on criminal cases. And so in the beginning, we identified a lot of our own cases. We would build the case and we would take and present it to law enforcement, either the sheriff or the DA, and get their sign off on moving forward. Over the years, as we've become more known and we've worked well with so many law enforcement agencies around the country, a lot of the times they just call us directly now. And they'll say, "Hey, we have another situation and we really need you." Some in the last couple of years, it's become hard because more and more there's more demand for us than we can always provide. So we have started kind of evaluating cases, not just on if we can do it, but how successfully and efficiently can we do it so that we don't get bogged down in one case where it either takes a long time because of the lack of a bond and forfeiture law or because the animals are particularly difficult to place. And we're trying to make the most of our ability by choosing cases that we feel that we can be most effective in and move through quickly so that we can do more.
Interesting. What do you feel are some of ARC's biggest wins, those moments that remind you that this work is truly important?
I mean, I tell people that I'm very fortunate because we get rewarded on a daily basis.
Mm.
It's every time we do an operation. If it ended tomorrow, I would feel great about everything that we've done till today. I'm very much focused on the individual as far as animals go. So we don't have to save them all. But every one we save is, it means the world to that animal and the family that adopts them. We get messages from families all the time that say that we've changed their lives because this animal that was so neglected and ignored is now so cherished and beloved and a part of their family. So a lot of the rewards come daily, with just getting to know the individual animals. Personally, for me, I love it because we're not a municipal shelter, so we don't have the same constraints that a municipal shelter will have in terms of time and space. So we can give animals longer time and special attention to help them recover. And for me, when you see an animal that would almost certainly and justifiably be destroyed in other settings because they simply don't have those space or resources, we do. And when that animal turns around and starts to trust, that is the greatest feeling I can describe. I mean, that's amazing. And then, of course, the other thing that I love is because a lot of shelters are exclusively focused on companion animals. And while that is the majority of what we do, we're concerned about all animals. So when we go on a case, if there's chickens or miniature horses or rabbits or donkeys or you name it, we're going to make sure that every animal on that property is taken care of one way or another. So if it's wildlife, or then we call a wildlife partner. If there are exotics, then we have certain partners and vets that we work with to help exotic animals. And then, of course, we have our farmed animal partners that have sanctuary farms so that we're able to relocate chickens and goats and things like that that we can't accommodate here at our shelter. We work with our farmed animal partners to get them into sanctuary farms where they're no longer in any sort of jeopardy and are given, great care. And one of my favorite cases was one we did a number of years ago. It was called uh, Operation Caged. I think it was Caged Hell. And in that situation, there was animals of all types, but there were over 600 rats and mice,
Mm.
fancy rats and mice that he kept to feed his snakes. And those animals were living in the worst conditions of anything I've ever seen. It was heartbreaking. And law enforcement and everyone was like, "Well, you're not going to bother with the rats and mice, are you?" And I said, "Of course we are." And we stayed there until 2 in the morning until every rat and mouse had been identified and transferred into a clean container. And I mean, all those rats and mice were so sick they had to be nebulized, given vapor medicine twice a day. And but we saved all 600 rats and mice and placed them around the country. And even our volunteers who were queasy about it at first became big fans of rats and mice and learned to love them. So I'm very proud of that.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
We're speaking with Tim Woodward of Animal Rescue Corps. On the flip side of that, Tim, is there one story that you just couldn't make it work and it just still sits with you?
Unfortunately, there's a handful of those. I'm glad to say that that is the exception rather than the rule. but there are a handful, I would say about a half a dozen cases where we had a strong case, and for whatever reason, law enforcement refused to act. And that can be for a number of reasons. Usually it's some sort of personal connection they have to the situation. And if a sheriff or a district attorney refuses to act, there's not a lot of ways around that. We are not we're Because our relationship of working hand in hand with law enforcement is so critical to our mission. We're not an organization who will turn around and go public and try to make everyone in the world call that sheriff's office. Largely because it's usually not effective, but also because as an organization, we're always keeping that door open. We want them to make the right decision and be comfortable coming back to us for help. So, like I said, it's only been about 6 times, but those cases stay with you. You never forget them in your mind. You know that those animals are still there and still in need. And so we continue to monitor. And when that person, when the perpetrator becomes sick or disabled, we're right there ready to step in. Or if a new sheriff is elected and we suddenly have a new route to go or new evidence emerges, we don't give up on those cases. They do stay with us until we can finally find a way in.
In what ways do you say sanctuaries play a critical role in your work after the emergency is complete?
I, I Whether it's a shelter, a rescue, a sanctuary, or a foster network, all of these in different ways provide, huge pieces of the solution. There are some dogs who just simply do not do well in a shelter environment. And they are likely to never get adopted in a shelter environment because they're not reacting well and thriving in that environment. So, in those instances, finding permanent sanctuary or finding a foster network where that dog can learn to trust in a home, usually guided by other dogs that are living in that home, or rescues that don't have the sort of loud commotion that many shelters do. So we're always looking at all of those options for our animals, and we rescue for life. So if an animal leaves our care and moves into one of our partners' care, and for whatever reason they're unable to place that dog, or that dog begins to decline, and I say dog, but it could be a dog, a cat, a guinea pig, it could be anything. We're there, and that partner can contact us, and we'll either transfer the animal or we'll bring them back into our care. But anyway, so we're constantly looking for that best relationship for to meet the animal where they are now. And sometimes that's a sanctuary, sometimes it's a foster network, and often it's one of our shelter or rescue partners.
I imagine you're always sourcing new partners.
We are. We absolutely are. And you have to, because regionally partners go through their own crises.
Mhm.
Whether they're short of vets in that region right now, and so spay and neuter is lagging behind. Or maybe they've had several big hoarding cases in their region this year, and it's impacted them. So, like I said, most of our partners we've worked with for over 10 years. But sometimes, and we fully, we appreciate that they have to take care of their own community first. And so that's why we try to spread the load and transport as far as we need to. And then, of course, we also try to be there to support our partners. So some of our placement partners sometimes refer cases to us
Mm.
that are in their area and are too big for them to handle. So we will come in and assist them with a case, and they will take some of the animals, and we will leave with the lion's share. So it's really a two-way street, and understanding that our partners are always helping us the most that they can. But the more that we can diversify and spread the number of animals we rescue out, it makes it easier for communities to help when they can.
What are some lessons that ARC has learned about leadership and sustainability in the animal rescue field?
Oh, um, I think for our leadership and our volunteers, learning balance has been a big thing. I know that over the years, we've all experienced bouts of, incredible fatigue and compassion fatigue. And so just remembering to take time for yourself because the work is so large, you cannot get it all done.
Mm.
So, and you will get less done if you don't take care of yourself. So, learning balance for the leadership team and our volunteers has been a big lesson. And then, of course, sustainability, realizing that the problem is bigger than any one organization can address. So, we try to work on collaborations with other organizations as much as possible. And also, keeping in mind that don't overwhelm our system. So it's important for us to always keep our standards high. And even though there's another case waiting and we're desperate to help those animals, don't jeopardize or impact what we're currently doing. Try to do each thing to the fullest before taking on something else.
You've been recognized nationally for your work. What does that recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
I mean, personally, it's very flattering. People say to me, I don't know how you do what you do. And my answer is always, you would do the same thing. If you were in a position and you knew that there were animals suffering in a house greatly and law enforcement told you you could go get them, you would find a way to go in there and get them and save them. And that's what I feel like I'm fortunate enough to get to do. And I'm fortunate enough to get to work with an amazing team. So it's a little uncomfortable for me when I'm singled out as an individual because everything we do here is a team. But on the other hand, I accept it gratefully because for the organization, it's huge. I was recently nominated or awarded to be one of CNN's Heroes of the Year, which is an incredible honor. But what it's meant for the organization has been great. People who would never have otherwise seen our work. Or maybe they're nervous about whether an organization is reputable and it's a lot to do your own research. That validation from CNN has been wonderful in the last few months and has really brought in some new donors and volunteers that are very excited. And of course, that means the world to me because more growth means we become more sustainable. And ideally, I would like Animal Rescue Corps to continue long after me
And all over the country and
and
maybe
all over
even
the country.
beyond. Yeah.
Yes.
How do you think that animal rescue and sanctuary work are evolving as we're into 2025 and beyond?
I, I, I don't want to speak for sanctuaries because I think they face a rather unique struggle for them. I mean, they really have to tell their stories about individuals in order to keep people realizing, the importance of caring for an animal for a lifetime.
Mm.
And I think that they do incredibly valuable work. For ARC, I think that um, it's become like I alluded to it earlier. It's about focusing on the cases where we can make the most impact. And that's hard when you have to say no to other cases. But I I'm sorry, I think I lost the question
No,
in
not
my
at all. Not at
okay.
all. I just wonder if things have changed in the time that you've been doing this kind of
Oh,
work.
so thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So we definitely saw a change after COVID, during and after COVID. The shelter system in the United States has always been sort of overwhelmed, but during and after especially after COVID, it kind of reached a breaking point. A lot of vets had either closed up or sold. Spay and neuters were harder to get. People a lot adopted during COVID, so adoptions went down afterwards. And so for us, after COVID, placement became much, much harder. We did a lot of things to sort of assist our partners. In some cases, we started making medical grants to help with, say, heartworm positive cases. We also started trying, when time allows, to do spay and neuters here locally, so that would relieve some burden off of our partners. And then also we've had to try, we get a lot of requests for large dog hoarding cases. And I love saving those dogs, and they are as deserving as anyone. But you can't place large dogs continuously with our partners. They have their own needs in their community. And so what we try to do is blend the cases with small dogs and then large dogs, so that we're giving our partners a selection to pick from and trying to give them more diversity. But again, that comes back to having to pick and choose, which is really hard. When pre-COVID, it seemed like, and maybe it's just that we're also getting more cases pushed towards us. But pre-COVID, it didn't seem like we had to pick and choose. It seemed like if there was a case, then we knew we could help and we would go. And now we do more evaluation on how long those animals will be with us, and how efficiently we can help them, because there's more than we can do.
It seems like we just need more of you, Tim, all over the place. So, what are some of your more effective fundraising strategies? Because I'm sure you're always in needs of funds, and how do you manage?
Well, thank you. We are always in needs of funds. We have a very small budget of about 1.1 or 1.2 million a year, which is, I mean, I know that sounds like a lot of money, but every animal we rescue costs somewhere between $500 and $750. And so you just do the math. It's expensive work. We do it with a very small staff. We're 99% volunteer run. And so we do it as efficiently as we can, but more funds means we can help more animals. We can also bring in more relief for our staff and volunteers. We rely on donations, private donations entirely. We get a few decent grants a year from grant making foundations, but most of it is small dollar donations, people giving $20 a month. And it's incredible that we're able to take that compassion from the community and organize it and use it in a way that is efficient and beneficial. We do have a marathon, a 5K we do every Thanksgiving, and that raises some funds. And then in November, and when time allows, we try to do other events. In November, we're actually having a benefit concert to celebrate our 15th anniversary. So some of our supporters here in Nashville are getting together, and we're having a benefit concert, and hopefully that'll be a big success. And then, as I mentioned, the exposure from things like ALDF recognizing me, or CNN, that really helps people around the country who have the means to give larger donations, have the faith in us to send that money, and we put it to use.
I was really enjoying listening to all your initiatives that you have for fundraising, such as the concert coming up and the 5K that you have planned, because I think we need more of you all over the country. And although you have what sounds like a substantial budget, it's a drop in the bucket for all the need out there. So how can we support you to get more funds in your quiver?
Taking the time to talk today and sharing our mission with your viewers is a big help, and I'm very grateful. Our website is Animal Rescue Corps, which is like Peace Corps, CORPS.org. So animalrescuecorps.org. And from the website, you can make a donation or you can sign up to volunteer. And even if you're not local to Tennessee, go ahead and sign up to volunteer because we may have an operation in your region, or sometimes we offer travel grants for people outside of the Southeast to come and see our operation and volunteer for a few days. So I encourage anyone that's interested to go to the website and donate or sign up to be a volunteer. And we will certainly take your resources and use them the best that we can.
I love that idea. That way you know what's available and what your capacity can be should an emergency arise, because we know there are emergencies all over.
Yeah, it's great to have. I mean, even if it's only a few individuals in a region and we get a case there, usually they're connected and they can really help start the advance operations on the ground. And then, of course, it's also great, like as over time, we're able to, when funds allow, bring people in from different parts of the country that work at other organizations, and they learn from us and we learn from them. And then they're a resource and a contact going forward.
That is fantastic. Tim Woodward, it has been such a pleasure to have you on our show today. And for
Oh,
those of you who have been listening and enjoying our show, please like and subscribe so that we can all create a better life for animals.
a real pleasure. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.